there were plenty of reasons to use contraception in Rome. Rich people often did not want to give birth to many children so as not to divide the inheritance into many parts. Pregnancy itself was considered a difficult process that had a detrimental effect on a woman's body. It was believed that having children is weakening strength and leading to accelerated aging. Contraception was not forbidden in Roman society and was considered a better option than abortion. And there were many ways to protect oneself from unwanted pregnancies. Cyrano of Ephesus, in his book Gynecology at the end of the 1st century AD, described in detail the different ways of contraception. Roman women made extensive use of sprinkling or the administration of contraceptive liquids. Such a liquid could be seawater, diluted lemon juice, or rancid olive oil mixed with honey, lead whitewash, or even an elephant dung. Spritzing was repeated both before and after sexual intercourse. Brief methods were quite popular. It was possible to block the entrance to the uterus with a clump of fine wool impregnated with sticky and astringent substances. Alternatively, blacks or pessaries were used, often made of cedar resin and honey. Copper versions have survived to the present day. There were also many recipes for suppositories to be inserted a few days before the intercourse to prevent conception. In the 1990s, medical historian John Riddle decided to test experimentally how effective Roman prescriptions were for contraception. To do this, he fed mice pomegranate peels, which were considered one of the foods to prevent pregnancy. Afterward, the number of conception in mice decreased by 28%. It turned out that of the 10 plants mentioned of the Cyrano of Ephesus book, 8 of them reduced the likelihood of pregnancy. But all science now agree with the conclusions of Riddle, and his findings have many critics. They emphasize that the same substances may act differently on the human body than on mice. But to conduct such tests in women, or at least on themselves, none of these critics has risked. Another ancient author, Dioscorides, gave very sound advice against conception, to refrain from sexual intercourse at the end of the menstrual cycle. But there were also less effective methods. For example, many women wore special amulets and talismans to avoid getting pregnant. Various witches, sorcerers, and magicians were very popular in ancient Rome. They could help with the solution of almost any problem. They were ordered to perform spells and reversals, to improve health, and to ask for justice. There were even cases when lawyers turned on their services to increase their chances of winning a lawsuit. Their talismans and amulets against pregnancy were very popular with women who had already given birth to several children. Another method of contraception suggested cutting open a spider with a large head and 2 worms inside, and then tying these worms to the woman with a thin strip of deer skin. According to the same Cyrano of Ephesus, such procedures could keep a woman from getting pregnant for a whole year. Special attention was paid to the fight against pregnancy in Roman Brussels, Lupanaria. Their pregnancy could lead to very unpleasant financial consequences, and therefore, to prevent it, practiced a variety of methods. And the number of such places in Roman cities was impressive. For example, the 20,000 inhabitants of Pompeii had 35 lupanaries, or about one such institution for every 600 inhabitants of the city. Although the lupanaria was not very visible from the street, it was quite easy to find them. Phallic arrows were carved into the stones of the sidewalk to point in the right direction. They were visited after dark, and special pointed headdresses allowed them to hide the faces of noble clients. An ordinary sneeze was considered as excellent contraceptive. It was believed that if after sexual intercourse sneeze well and wipe the semen, it would allow the woman to not get pregnant. The belief in such proprieties of sneezes was very tenacious and survived from the Romans until the 20th century. Sneezing was also supplemented by holding the breath during intercourse, squatting and jumping back after it was over. Simple abstinence also helped prevent pregnancy. Noble Roman women often practiced prolonged abstinence after childbirth. It was considered proper to breastfeed children up to the age of 3, and for the time of breastfeeding a woman was exempt from sexual activity. Men during this period satisfied their needs with slave girls and prostitutes. This was not only allowed, but was considered a virtue and a sign of respect for the wife who could be free from the marital duties at an important time in her life. Now showing virtue can be much easier and faster than in Roman times. Just subscribe to this channel and press the bell to not miss new videos. But back to our topic. Connections with slaves in ancient Rome were generally devoid of much erotic significance. Such abstinence for feeding was practiced mainly among rich Romans. Roman women from poorer backgrounds usually did not breastfeed it for long. Contraception in those days was considered a woman's responsibility, but there were also male methods of protection. For example, the penis was smeared with cedar resin, which allowed to close the urethra from ejaculation. In general, men were less concerned with contraception and paid more attention to abstinence from sex. This was not so much due to pregnancy control as to health concerns. There were many myths about the harm of sexual intercourse for men. They were believed to lead to paralysis, heart attack, insanity, and other health problems. This view was so popular in some periods that it even led to a significant drop in the birth rate. According to Romans, not only sexual intercourse but also frequent ejaculation weakened men. The connection between abstinence and vocal strength was emphasized. This led to very unusual practices. For example, singers and actors resorted to bandaging their penis to keep their voices longer. The Romans came up with many ways to suppress desire in the male body. There were very special diets without meat and with a lot of vegetables, which were aimed at suppressing desire. Physical methods were also practiced, but the penis was not aroused, it was tied to lead weights. But if abstinence was not an option, and neither talismans nor even spider worms helped to protect against conception, it was necessary to terminate the pregnancy. And in this, the Romans were no less ingenious. But we will talk about this in another video.